I didn't mean to click the record button already, so hey. Find y'all a good angle. We're gonna be super chill today, and I'm tired, so we're just gonna have a slumber party on my bed, if that's okay. I got my messy Elsa braid going on, like, I'm like homeless royalty. Cold never bothered me anyway. That's what I'm vibing to today. My tripod is crooked. The ottoman that I'm using to hold the tripod is all wobbly. It's just a reflection of my mental state, wobbly and crooked. What is up, you guys? It's me, your girl, your Casey. How you doing? So, I got 1,000 subscribers. No biggie, except it's all you guys, and I like you guys, so kind of a biggie. I filmed the Q&A I asked you guys to send questions for so many months ago. I filmed it, then I lost all the footage. Quality YouTuber right here. Responsibly saving and doing backups? No. So I gotta refilm that video, but it's no biggie. I mean, we're talking about my favorite subject, me. I can go on and on about me if I felt like it. But I did not read a lot in whatever month was last month. My brain is just so flatlined. I know I DNF'd like 3 books, read 1 graphic novel, actually liked a magical realism book, so we know I wasn't normal in May, because I hate magical realism. I read 2 thriller books, which I already did like full reviews for, and it's June now, obviously. I'm currently reading, I hate wobbling this thing. Why do you keep drifting? I'm currently reading, finally, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I'm like 150 pages into it, 140. And I love Donna Tartt's prose, but nothing has happened in this book yet I still love it. Because it's such a picturesque, atmospheric college town that we're in, like in Vermont, autumn leaves, rainy days, cardigan sweaters, all of that. And I'm like, wow, that sounds super exciting, except it's a lie, because I'm in college and we ain't got none of that. I recently had to go pick up my textbook from my college's bookstore, and I had my little brother with me, and I'm like, come on, Colby, come with me to my bookstore and you can see what a college looks like. And he's like, okay. So we go, and I pull up into the parking lot, and we're walking in like the main courtyard, and Colby's like, where's all the skateboarders? Where are the people playing frisbee and having picnics? And I'm like, every college you've seen in movies is a lie. No one's happy. There's frisbees, we got frisbees of depression hitting you upside the head. Picnics? No. In college, you're the picnic. The victim of the carnivorous, gluttonous appetite of anxiety and stress. It's not nice, but it's a pretty book to read. And it's all about this like normal kid following his classmates around. Like they're all part of this, what's it called? Clandestine Greek program where there's only like 6 students allowed in the class. And all these people are just so weird, so smart yet so dumb at the same time. So it's literally just watching them live their lives, and we know they're up to something, but we haven't figured it out yet. If you're a plot-driven reader, you will not like The Secret History. Wait, I said that wrong. If you're a character-driven reader, no, I said it right. Character-driven reader, you'll like it. Plot-driven reader, no. But enough about what I'm reading. Let's get into what I did read. I'll start with the shortest book that I read in May. It was V.E. Schwab's graphic novel, issue 0 of the Extraordinary Saga, whatever it's called, Extraordinary Volume. It's called Extraordinary, and I believe it takes place in the Vicious and Vengeful world. It definitely does, but I think it takes place in between book 1 and point 2. Point 2? Book 2. Book 2? Booktube. Illuminati. In this very short, like 24-page graphic novel, we have this girl. I don't know her name. She left 0 impression on me. She's a girl. She gets on a bus. Something happens on the bus. Lots of people die. She doesn't. And per the universe laws of the Vicious and Vengeful duology, if you die, but you got like this really desperate last wish that you're like clinging onto, usually something revengey, you're brought back to life, and you have some sort of ability based on that last wish. Well, that happens with her. And then it ends. That was it. This was my first time in years, since I read the Percy Jackson graphic novels, reading a graphic novel. And so I read all 24 pages and I'm like, that's it? We're done? And I get that it's like issue 0, so it's like a major prologue. Like short, sweet, to the point, set up the basic stuff. Well, it was too basic. Like, I spent 99 cents on this. I want more. But I also don't want more. Like, I don't care. I'm very meh about this comic book thing. I think the reason I'm so meh about this V.E. Schwab graphic novel, even though V.E. Schwab is one of my favorite authors, is because the reason why I read so little this month, besides the mental breakdowns, as usual, is because I fell into a Webtoons hole. Oh my gosh, some Webtoons. That's where I go for my love triangle drama. Delicious. I need to make a tier ranking of all my favorite Webtoons. So good. And those are basically graphic novels, but on the webs. And like on Webtoons, you usually get like the first 3 episodes free to like really hook you in with the plot and the characters, and then you have to like wait for weekly updates usually. So that's what I was expecting with the Vicious one. Like, to be really hooked, to have more than just like, oh, this is girl, this is accident, this is power, the end. It wasn't enough. I wasn't satisfied. I would honestly just rather read a Webtoon for free. Will it probably be better as the series goes on? Probably, but I really have no interest in reading this graphic novel series. Probably because it, at least right now, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with the main characters of Vicious and Vengeful. And I need those people. I love them. Best villain duo ever. So very mad about that. Let's get into some very sad DNFs this month. So I was asked to review a book called Pigeon Blood Red. I was reached out by either the author or their like, what's they called, like PR company, advertising company, manager, press, I don't know. And I'm like, sure thing, give me your free book and I'll review it. I DNF'd this book. I did not like it. Mostly it was because of how it was written. Hold on, I gotta pull up a summary to just like even remember what this book was trying to be about. So we got all these characters and they all have names, but none of them have personalities. Oh, and why is this book called Pigeon Blood Red? It's because it's the type of ruby. The ruby's very important in this book. I'm getting into it. Goodreads is taking forever to load. Okay, so we got this like mafia type member of the mafia, as you would. His name is Rico. I don't remember him. And you know, he's doing what a gangster does, shooting machine guns, wearing pinstripe suits, smoking cigars, like an Al Capone. But then he gets the job from his gangster boss. Mr. Gangster Boss is like, hey, I need you to get back this priceless Pigeon Blood Red ruby necklace. That is a lot of adjectives in one word, one sentence. I don't know grammar. And to teach the no good philandering rat who took it a lesson. And he's like, okay boss, sure thing, I'll do this. But the chase quickly goes sideways and takes Rico from the mean streets of Chicago to sunny Honolulu, where the hardened hitman finds himself in uncharted territory when a couple of innocent bystanders are accidentally embroiled in the crime, as Rico pursues his new targets. It's Rico's empanada! The hunter and his prey develop an unlikely respect for one another, and Rico is faced with a momentous decision. Follow his orders to kill the couple whose courage and character have won his admiration, or refuse and endanger the life of the woman he loves. So, the parts that I read, we weren't anywhere near Honolulu. It started off like this. Okay, Rico and this other guy, they're basically partners in crime. They go to the boss. Boss says, hey, transport my necklace to so-and-so place, please. Rico and partner are like, sure thing, let's do it. But for some reason, they have like a hostage with them. So, partner guy, hostage guy, Rico guy, they get in the car. But partner guy is driving, hostage guy is in the passenger seat, and I think it's Rico who's in the back seat. And Rico says, hey, drive by my girlfriend's house real quick. So they do. Girlfriend hops in the car, and in some weird power play to make the hostage uncomfortable, because he's in the passenger seat up front, and Rico in the back seat with his girlfriend, he's like, if you turn around, I'm gonna kill you. So Rico and girlfriend in the back seat, they start the sex. Yeah, it's as cringy as it sounds, and I'm like, what is this? So Rico's partner is like so used to this. Apparently they do this all the time in the back seat. So he's just driving on, and Mr. Passenger is just like, what the heck is going on behind me? Help. And during like all of this, somehow that ruby necklace that was in one of the bad guys, the partner in crime's pockets, it slips out. And hostage guy, he's like, oh my gosh, there's a ruby necklace. Swipe, swipe, going in my pocket. So finally he gets out of the sex mobile and books it home, and then Rico, partner guy, they get done with their thing. And they start like patting their pockets like, where did that ruby necklace go? Oh dang. So just from that little snippet, because now they're off to go re-find that hostage who stole their necklace. Because the sex happened. This book is really trying to be edgy. And it was like so cringy on how it was trying to be so tough and hardcore. But because of their stupid decisions, they lost like $1 million necklace. I mean, you kind of deserved it. So I couldn't get behind the stupidity of our two hardened criminals to root for them. I didn't care that they found the necklace. I was for the hostage running away from this weird situation. And I got 15% into the book. And that's when I finally DNF'd it, because it was written, the writing style was like the worst part of this book, but it was written in a way that just told the events, and 15% in and I still don't know what makes our characters tick. I don't even remember all of their names. The two worst parts of the writing style or the grammar of this book was one of my pet peeves, and it's point of view jumps that aren't broken apart into like chapter changes, or there's not like a paragraph break. And by paragraph break, I don't mean a new paragraph. I mean like a good space in between the paragraphs to show you, hey, something has changed, maybe a time lapse happened. But we would be like reading a paragraph, and it would change point of views 3 times. Like it would start with Rico, then go to his partner, then go back to Rico. And that would confuse the heck out of me, like who are we in right now? Sometimes we'd go to Rico, to some random security guard, then to his partner, then back to Rico. Very confusing. I hate when that happens. Like, I love the Artemis Fowl series, but it had those point of view jumps all the time in like the same block of text, and that annoyed me. You guys just keep drifting. I'm sorry. This tripod is the crap, but I respect it because it has this cool light attached to it, so I forgive it. So yeah, it was a very quick DNF. No character development, no personalities, did not like the writing style, confusing point of views, weird sex. Like, honestly, the easiest way to kick me out of the book is to have a cringy sex scene. Please no. And again, following my next DNF, same situation. I was asked to review this book, and it's called Wildcat. And it's about this female warrior who has to decide if she wants to continue on her righteous quest to destroy her enemies on the battlefield, or if she wants to become a mother. She's honestly fine with both. She will be happy no matter what. But, and it seems like she ultimately does decide to become a mother, because apparently some great enemy comes into her country, causes some havoc, and she's forced to pick up her sword once again and just wage havoc on this enemy. I think I got to the point where I met this enemy, or maybe one of his underlings, and I had no idea what his deal was about. So that was another reason why I DNF'd. I'm like, who the heck are you? Usually I'm the biggest fan of the villain, but I'm like, what are you? So this book, just look at the cover, like Viking-esque. You can tell it's like medieval. It's old setting, but everyone speaks so modern. And I honestly do not know how to describe this well. I'm going to try to. But when a book doesn't have good dialogue, everything just sounds so peppy and cheery, even when they're insulting each other. Like, especially in older setting books. They're like 1,000 years in the past or something like that. They don't use contractions because they're all stiff and formal like that. Like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, everyone in this book were just like, oh, hello, what a wonderful day we're having today. So-and-so laughed. It is indeed a great day. That, like, not how a person would talk, but technically not incorrect. It's weird. I cannot describe it well. I can try to, but it makes sense when I see it. Like, I've seen it in this book, I've seen it in The Unbecoming Amara Dyer, I've seen it in Tiger Curse, I've seen it in that book I wrote in 5th grade. Good thing it was destroyed. Also, my first note that I wrote in this is, I don't like anything. Oh, and let me just read you this dialogue. I forgot I wrote this part down. So, oh, okay, I gotta mention this part. This book has a butt ton of characters in it, and they're all introduced at once. I remember none of their names. They all talk the same, that like fake chipper thing, because the dialogue's not good. But our main female protagonist, I'm gonna call her Erin, I can't remember her name. She has like 4 sisters, and it was kind of confusing because it sounded like 4 of these sisters aren't actually blood related to her, but they basically still call each other sisters. But they're all like taking a communal bath together. And these women are all warriors. They just got back from this battle. They're covered in bruises, so they're just like relaxing in the baths. And two of the sisters are like play fighting with each other in the bubbles and stuff. One of the sisters like gets the upper hand, splashes water, and she says this: 2 of their men and 3 of their between us, me and Meg got. What the heck does that mean? Like, reading it now, I understand they're talking about 2 men and 3 women that they beat in battle, but it's just such a weird sentence structure, and it came out of nowhere in the book. It was like 20 pages into it. Like, I DNF'd this book, but then I was like, oh, I was asked to review it. Let me at least try again. So I got like maybe 15 pages further than my initial DNF. Then I re-DNF'd it. I'm like, I don't got time for this. I DNF'd it at a cringy sex scene, in case you were wondering. Speaking of sex. Well, pre-speaking of sex. So I'm not usually someone who gets offended. Well, I get offended by everything, but I hide it really well. But for a book that's supposed to be like, you know, empowering women, you know, talking about something pretty, you know, momentous, important, like work-life balance, warrior or mother, why not be both? Stuff like that, a topic like that. This book was very sexist with how they were talking about the women. Like, this is that communal bath scene, and I saved this screenshot, and this is what it says. We're talking about this girl, Megan, and you know, she's all naked right now, so we're getting a good look at her body. Megan, red-haired, long-legged, curvaceous and pretty, would normally have been the best looking of the trio in the tub, but today her slender forearms were liberally smattered with blue and black, and one cheek was dominated by an ugly purple bruise. But it would heal, Rhea thought. Rhea's our main character. But it would heal, Rhea thought. And then Megan would be the beautiful one again. So you're saying if a woman has bruises, she's not beautiful? And then, the same communal bath scene, we get to my favorite part of the book, when the dad just walks in to the communal bath, and you know, like 40-year-old man, young women, most of whom is his daughters. Let me just read this for you right now, and let's see if you cringe, flinch like I did. Okay, so Rhea's father, our main protagonist, he walks into the communal bath, which again is just filled with women. And so he smiled at the group as he approached. They say some things, and then Rhea smiled up at the old man, just reenacting the fighting at the stream father. Carradine, the dad, nodded at Megan's impressive chest. Had I known it would have been like this, I'd have come along. The girl smiled and Megan stuck her tongue out at the chieftain. I'm surprised your heart hasn't given out at the sight. Rhea's father continued to smile. He'd known all the girls for years, and none of them felt any real embarrassment. They all had the wash after all, and he was a married man. It was nothing that he hadn't seen before. My heart always threatens to give out around you, Megan. Perhaps you should keep your charms hidden around old men. The red-haired girl shook her head impatiently, though she failed to hide her smirk and did nothing at all to cover herself. The chieftain gave a bark of laughter. You really want me to collapse right here and now, don't you? He turned to look at Pyrrha. And you are no less a culprit in that murder. Rhea's fellow brunette glanced down at herself before giving her chieftain a chiding look. These boobs, these are for Barden to enjoy, father. Just you remember that. And of course they go on a thing about how everybody calls him father out of respect and stuff like that, but still, you know, still creepy. And then father says, he's a fortunate man, Pyrrha. Should you ever grow weary of him, you let me know. I'm sorry, that's just bleh. So yeah, just like overwhelming sexist cringe like that. So many characters introduced at once that I could not keep track of. These people, they kept talking, and I could not keep track of the dialogue of what country was what, who we were even fighting against. We had these like fighting warrior classes, but our enemy's warrior class was the same thing as our hero's side warrior class. So it was confusing which warrior was bad and good when they called the same thing. Whenever there was like a paragraph break, it would introduce a new scene and just like, oh, the hills, the castle. It had like clunky descriptions of the scenery. Basically what I despise. Loch Lamora, The Lies of Loch Lamora had this too, where it would like take like 2 pages on the first chapter to describe the setting, like it was setting up a stage. Then it would get into the action, but that actually paid off in The Lies of Loch Lamora. The Lies of Loch Lamora. It did not in this book. I wrote in my notes, there's this character called Durin the Flying Hawk. And I wrote, well, what the heck is a bird supposed to do besides fly? That's like writing Buford the Swimming Fish. Doy. When I finally, like I said before, I met that villain or underling, we met him after a battle, and instead of meeting him during or before the battle and then going into battle with him, it was after the battle. So he was like replaying it in his mind for us, and I'm like, why can't we just be in the battle with you already and like be in the action instead of listening to this secondhand account? And also, finally, this book was just all telling and not showing. Like I wrote, Rhea, our protagonist, insults someone, and the book goes, a few chuckles nearby told her that her fellow Caterin were appreciating her wit. You could have just wrote, the crowd chuckled. I would have gotten that they appreciated their wit without being told, oh my gosh, they appreciated my wit. So yeah, not well done. Fathers, please don't go to your daughters while they're bathing, please. It causes weird stuff to happen. Okay, I got 3 more books that I actually did read. One of them being Piranesi. I randomly saw this book in a library. I knew it was magical realism, but I was like, oh, what the heck? It's at the library, it's free. If I don't like it, I'll just stop reading it. I liked it. I liked magical realism. What is happening to me? Am I just so unhinged from reality because of stress that I'm starting to understand magical realism? Someone shoot me. But as you can see, I actually took no notes because I was just like so absorbed into the story. I mean, it's a really basic principle. Not basic principle, a basic plot. So let me set the stage, because that's basically 80% of what magical realism does. There's this house. This house has like an infinite amount of rooms. This house is by the sea. So half the time, most of these rooms are flooded by seawater. And so, you know, we got seawater around all these sculptures. Like these rooms, these halls are filled with the most magnificent sculptures. Kings playing chess, satyrs dancing around each other, a goddess picking a grove of apples. Really cool statues. And this house is basically infinite. I'm sure it represents something with the universe. I don't know what it is. But in this house, there is this guy. His name is Piranesi, but that's not his real name. But he can't remember his real name. He just knows it's not Piranesi, but that's what the other calls him. The other is the only other person living in this infinite house with Piranesi. So Piranesi was so much fun to read, the character, because even though I don't like magical realism, they're always great characters. Like, they're very realistic, and I'm always rooting for them, except Kafka. On Kafka on the Shore, he can die in a ditch that I would set on fire and then blow up with a hand grenade. But Piranesi, he is just like filled with the beauty and splendor and wonder of this house. He's very childlike, very good-natured, even-tempered, a little bit naive, but just like filled with imagination. He loves just taking his notebook around and exploring this house. He has a fantastic memory. So even though this is like an infinite house with infinite rooms and halls, he knows exactly where he is at all times. And he's just spent most of his life happily exploring the caves, not caves, the rooms. He like talks to the birds that comes to roost. He makes friends with the albatross. That was so adorable. I love that scene. And he's best friends with the other. The other, though, has none of Piranesi's innocent traits. He's there because he's looking for a specific knowledge. It's called the knowledge. And it's basically this lost power that would give you like immortality, flight, all the cool powers, the abilities to control weaker minds, stuff like that. And so he's after this power, and Piranesi, just being a friendly guy, he's like, I'll help you out. So together, they're both seeking for the knowledge, and while they're looking for it, Piranesi starts to get the feeling that they shouldn't be looking for it, and maybe it was lost for a reason. But still, he feels like if he doesn't help the other with his experiments, then he might lose a friend over it, and the other is the only person he has in the whole world. But during these like experiments where Piranesi is like off searching the far reaches of the infinite house, Piranesi starts to see signs that maybe there's actually another person besides the two of them living in the house with them. And so this grand metaphorical search resumes. So I was like 40 pages into this book, and I was reading it at my work at the gym. And one of our gym members came up, she saw me reading, and she's like, what's that about? I hate answering this question with regular books, but with magical realism, I'm like, I don't know. The fact that I hate telling people what books are about and I'm a booktuber is hilarious. But I gave this book a 4 because I loved Piranesi. Great, fun character. It was just fun being with him, exploring the house, finding out who this third person is, reading Piranesi's diary entries. It was just really cool and chill, and there was a bit of mystery in it. And honestly, I just like being along for the ride. It's not a big plot-driven book, and honestly, it's pretty easy to tell who the villain is in this book. Like, I was expecting it from page 1, honestly. But I was still ready to see what was going to go on. What really got me excited for this book, and I didn't realize until I was like midway through this book, is that it's written by the same author that wrote, Jonathan something, and I don't know. Here's a picture of it, and I have this book. Doctor Strange. No. I have this book, and I'm really excited to read this book. Just haven't picked it up yet because it's pretty big. But it's by the same author, Suzanne Clark, am I right? And I loved Piranesi, so I'm excited to see what this book is about. I don't have any complaints for this book, really. Besides, of course, it being magical realism, we don't really get a good answer for what the heck this house is. But that's par for the course for magical realism. You just gotta turn off your brain and go with it. Let the crazy happen. Very atmospheric, very fun. Made me want to go to the beach. And I live on the beach constantly, and I'm tired of the beach. It also made me want to pet albatross, but that is a very bad idea. Those things are big. It also made me want to like start keeping a diary. But I've never had a diary because I don't trust people not to open it. I remember I had a fake diary in elementary school. Like, I would write things like, I won a spelling bee today. I won a rabbit at the fair today. And just fake lies. And whenever I would have company over, like a sleepover or something, I would leave the diary in a really obvious place. And I would leave the room, and of course they would look, my friends would look in the diary and they'd be like, wow, Casey, you did all this cool stuff. I was an attention-seeking little twit. The next 2 books I have, both thrillers, one's more horror than thriller, and I reviewed them in a video together. It's The Good Indian and The Good Sister. Both books I gave a 4. So I either like gave everything a 4 this month or I DNF'd it. There was no real in between. I either liked or I hated. So if you want like the in-depth tea for both of them, go watch that mega review. But The Good Indian, like, I'm very new to horror, and I honestly need to read more of it because apparently I'm into that jazz. You know, murder, trauma, love it. And The Only Good Indians read a lot like magical realism. It took me a while actually to get adjusted to the writing style. Like, it's a good, fun, kind of an informal writing style. Like, you're really in these people's thoughts. But it just took like a couple pages for my brain to get adjusted to it. Same thing with Frederick Bachman. I had to like really be like, what? Like fine-tune the channel of my brain to the radio of the book. Does that make sense? Fine-tune the station, you know, dial, knob. It just took a little bit because there is like a ton of run-on sentences, like a sentence that lasts like a paragraph. But The Only Good Indians is about these 4 friends. They lived on this reservation together, they're Indians, and together as a group, they did this awful thing, and basically that awful thing has awakened this evil entity, and that entity's mission is to now humiliate, like, separate, like, get these people as humiliated and secluded from their loved ones, as humiliating as possible, basically, and then slaughter them in horrendous ways. And it seems like this entity is operating through elk. Like, one of our guys, I think his name is Rick, he was drunk at a bar, he angered the bar patrons, they were not happy, so they like chased him out of the bar, they were hunting him down, he was like dodging between cars, then this random elk comes out of nowhere and basically gives away his location. Like, stupid elk is just making elk noises like bleh! And so the gang's able to find him again. Like, the elk is planning his death. And this book was so trippy. I loved it. Like, I did a little spoiler section on that dedicated review where I just like basically summarized what happens in part 2 of this book. And it's a ride. It's a hoot. It's out of this world. I do recommend this book if you just want to be like, what the heck is all this? My only disappointment with that book, because I was hooked the whole time, was the ending. Like, this entity went from being manipulative in the shadows, subtle, to suddenly with this last person it has to finish off, to like, oh, now I have to come at you head on, full force, in like this really anticlimactic chase scene. Like, it was literally this person running, and the entity person is just like following them from behind, like walk, walk, walk. Let's see who outlasts the other. Not very cool. And then like the resolution just kind of got pulled out of nowhere. Like, it's not anything our characters did. It just randomly crops up and everything's fine. Like, the end, time to go. Magical realism. But still a fun read. Weird read, but delightfully weird. like me. And lastly, my last thriller, The Good Sister. It was just such a cute thriller, which is not usually a description I would put with thrillers. Like, honestly, this book feels more like a contemporary with just a little bit of edge, just like a smidgen. Like, we had these twin sisters. We got Fern and we have Rose. Fern, I believe, is autistic or like sensory processing issues. So she likes her schedule, she doesn't like change. Loud noises, bright lights, those are a no-no. She walks around with like noise-canceling headphones. She wears goggles to dim bright lights. And she works at a library because it's basically where she grew up and she's most comfortable there, so she works there. And then it's at this library where she meets this really cute guy, and his name is Wally, but it's not Wally. She calls him Wally because Wally is like the Australian equivalent to Waldo from Where's Waldo, you know? And Wally in the book is wearing like a hat similar to that. So Fern is like, you're Wally. And so like they start to get this relationship going, but it's not a conventional relationship. Fern has an agenda because she loves her twin sister Rose. Loves. Rose, however, has just figured out she can't have a kid and she really wants a kid. Fern is like, well, how about I get pregnant and I give you the baby? She doesn't discuss this with Rose. That's not a smart idea. So Rose goes off on this trip, and meanwhile, Fern is like, I'm gonna go find a man, and when you come back, I'll be pregnant. So she finds Wally. She's like, target locked. But they have the cutest relationship. I have not seen so much chemistry and just like a rightness in a couple. They were so good together. I was like, there's no thrills in this thriller. It's not creepy. You're not being watched. It's so obvious who the villain is because it's such a small cast of characters. But it was just so cute watching these people. I loved it. So meanwhile, Fern is doing her thing. And it's mostly in her point of view. But every now and then we get these chapters from Rose's point of view. But it's like diary entries. And she's basically relaying how she shielded Fern from the abusive trauma of their childhood. Like, they just lived with their mom. Fern, like, believes that everything was hunky-dory in their past, but Rose, like, took the blunt of their mother's abuse, the cruelty, and that just instilled a real sense of protection, overprotection, in Rose for Fern. So, you know, sistership and all that cool stuff. Like, I've seen this before. They do a past and a present timeline, alternating chapters. Usually one is more exciting than the other, but I was, like, captivated with both. That did good. But again, it's not a thriller. It's not scary. It's obvious who did it. And there was like that climactic escape scene that's always towards the end of a thriller. Like, oh, we have to get away from captor or murderer. Let's run. There is that scene. It ends just like that. And it's not anything cool. But I did like the very last chapter of this book and what it implies about our villain and how just unwilling to change they are. Like, there's no redemption. They didn't learn their lesson. They're still evil. And it made me feel bad for the person or the people this horrible villain, like, basically ruined the lives of. So I've had, like, a bunch of character-driven stuff this month. Piranesi, The Good Sister. The Good Indian was very plot heavy. And yeah, The Good Indian. Like, I didn't fall in love with any of the characters. Like, they were serviceable. Like, yeah, I'm just tagging along with you because I want to see what happens with all these crazy elk. But I guess I'm glad that I'm like both a character and plot-driven reader. I can take both, or one if I have to. So for what I did read this month, 4 stars for all of them. I had 3 DNFs. I read 1 graphic novel, which took like 5 minutes to read and left me meh. But still overall, pretty dang good. This book, Donna Tartt, Secret History, I love it so far. I'm waiting for the action and the reveal to kick in, but it takes so long for me to read. Like, it makes me feel dumb. It's like, look at how small this print is. Like, it literally takes me 30 minutes to read 10 pages, and I'm like, what the heck? Because Donna Tartt's writing style is super dense. Like, you gotta pay attention to like absorb what the heck is going on in all this prose. But it's delightful, and I love the challenge. So that is it for this wrap up, May wrap up. Stay tuned for the June wrap up. I got 1,000 subscribers now, so that means I got that community tab button. So I'm gonna be stalking you through your inboxes. Isn't that cool? But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, stay reading, my friends.